looked at the time to see if it's already afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking time on a wet and rainy day. I know it's a tough place to get in Mumbai. We were talking with the fellow panelists. We have about 50 minutes. I do have a very interesting panel here. We did catch up before this. And I do have some tough questions, but they are well prepared because I sent it to them yesterday just to share some cards so that, you know, we have a fairly good panel. So that's where we are. As a quick background, I don't think I'm going to spend time introducing myself, but I'm a partner in KPMG, been in this industry now for 25 years. That's my background. And I deal with primarily BFSI, to a certain extent TMT, but primarily BFSI in the areas that we're going to talk about. So that's my short introduction. So, but once again, good afternoon, everybody. So I do have a bunch of tough questions, as I said. So let me start, and I know we can go in no order. Maybe we start with, maybe you, sir, with Dinesh. I think the first one that I had for the panel is, you know, over time, compliance is evolving from being checkbox to being intelligence-driven. And why I say checkbox is, if I reflect back on me working with many companies, even not too long ago, even if I take, say, a decade ago, or probably a decade and a half ago, it was pretty much a checkbox, right? Till the regulators got in, and it got a lot of impetus. So now, for example, the CCO, the CRO, the CISO is regulatorily recognized, number one, and you pick any regulator. You pick the banking markets or the insurance regulator, it's regulatorily recognized. So it's moved from a world of being checkbox to being intelligence-driven. And my specific question is, how are you leveraging, say, AI to move from reactive compliance to predictive and proactive risk management? Again, so you guys know the question, but for the benefit of the audience, how are they in their capacity in their companies leveraging AI to move from, say, reactive compliance to more predictive and proactive risk management? That was my first question to the gentleman from CCIL. Over to you.
Hello, my name is Dinesh Phogat. I'm Chief Information Security at CCIL. Thank you, Mr. Sundar, for putting this question. So as far as compliance is concerned, so compliance is no more just checkbox, because it has been seriously taken by all organizations. Now, compliance have been discussed at the board level, and those have been tracked seriously in every organization, I believe, specifically in BFSI. And when it comes to cybersecurity area, so that is taken seriously by the board as well as by the organization. Yes. In cybersecurity specifically, I would like to mention that we get advisories. A lot of advisories we get from regulator. Regulator is doing a good job in sharing those advisories, and those are not available otherwise. So apart from threat intelligence sources, so those advisories are taken and tracked, and apart from that, those IOCs or those kind of IOCs are built into the SOC environment, wherein it is regularly, continuously monitored. Even if any kind of somebody is trying anything out of those IOCs or those advisories, so we do come to know, like somebody is trying to reach out us. So even though those are getting blocked, those kind of requests are getting blocked. So as far as AI is concerned, AI is from compliance perspective, AI is only for the perspective of reading out and collating those kind of documents, because this kind of advisories are generally coming in forms of various PDF and various other formats. So collating those are really helpful, and then tracking those after collation, and because certain advisories are a repeated nature. So we get a summary of it. So it is really helpful while using that summary and looking at the controls, whether the controls are in place or not. So by that way, like we are leveraging it to some extent, but you can say the limited one. So that's what we are using it currently. But it has huge potential, and compliance is really serious business now.
Good. I think thanks for your views, Dinesh. I think for those who, I'm sure everybody knows CCIL, systematically important institution for this country. Securities market will not operate if CCIL does not operate. So whatever Dinesh and team does is significant, right? If you could, their downtime is measured in seconds, if not minutes. And so I think very key input because we have a plethora of regulations and PDFs and whatever coming. So they're using AI very effectively. Thanks for that input. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. I think I'm representing Barclays, and I think prior to this we were just chatting. So Barclays is a 350-year-old bank. There's a lot of compliance that we carry. We operated around 50 plus countries, 170 plus odd regulators that we are should oblige. So you can imagine the amount of documentation refresh that happens at every department, both at a front office level as well as at a back office level. Now, most of the time, compliance is sort of a function that operates in the back office and tries to avoid a lot of our risk. Could be a market risk, could be a breach of which is internal. A lot of that risk sort of get mitigated. Historically, I think a lot of automation, a lot of efficiency has already been achieved. But at the end of the day, if you look at all the events on which regulators generally penalize us, there are patterns where the bad actors have taken to the next step. So I think while my esteemed colleague touched upon what we are doing, I think for institution like Barclays, banks generally are reserved when it comes to technologies like AI. We operate in an area of trust. We will wait for a lot of technology to get sort of attested in different ways. I think what we're more worried is how do we capture the bad actors who also have access to similar technologies, who are more free will compared to us, and that's the black swan event. I'll give an example. Prior to Barclays, I was at JP, and those who have dealt with international transfers and sanctions, when the Russia-Ukraine war started, we had an interesting mandate because overnight, the US put sanctions on Russian citizens. As a full-service bank, many of the banks would have Russian clients set up, right? How do you implement that kind of sanction list against your system so you prevent banking transaction, you prevent different kind of aspects so you stay sort of tight? Now, these are real use cases which I believe with the advent of AI, our level 1, level 2 teams can be very, very aggressively enabled. It was kind of a black swan event, but it took us almost 3 days and 4 nights to figure all this out because the systems are complex, the navigation is hard. But I think these are the use cases which we definitely believe similar to that, how we apply that. Very recently, I'll put probably a more Indian context, RBI has come up with a data privacy policy, DPDP, for those you know. Now, there are already around 50 plus data privacy policy across the globe, starting with GDPR, which is the market leader, CCPA, which is in California, and China and Hong Kong have their own respective ones. So in a way, Barclays, bank like Barclays or any would feel very, very comfortable, but there is always a nuance that the local regulator will bring. Another great use case where we believe we can use AI as a way to further capture the gap rather than start from scratch.
Hey, thanks, Amar, for your views. And I think the number of countries and the regulators is like humongous, right? You said 170 if I got the number right.
Yeah, we are just blessed.
Yeah, I think many of us in the audience struggle with one regulator each. I can imagine how you guys deal with 170. Over to you, Udayan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Udayan Tabeck, Chief Information Officer for Markets and Securities Services Business for HSBC India. Very similar to my esteemed colleagues' views on Barclays. Barclays and HSBC kind of have, a similar global presence and history and legacy. And just like he mentioned, the regulatory challenges and controls. HSBC also exists in multiple geographies in the world, which also adds to the challenge or a day-to-day reality of making sure that you keep complying, right, to all the regulatory requirements. In addition to that, it's not just complying, it's not really reactive. Banks like us, with the legacy, with the global footprint, are also keen advisors, right, to country forums, to also in some cases consultancy with the regulators, where our legacy, our history, our learnings through the years can help chart sustainable regulations for future. So it's always a two-way street, right? You can't be reactive. You have to be proactive from that perspective. You did mention at the start, compliance was perhaps a tick box exercise. I have a differing view on that. Yes, the intensity on regulatory compliance has increased multi-folds over the years, but it really is to make sure that the ecosystem, the economy is sustainable, right? The ultimate service from the BFSI industry is for our clients, right? So we've got to make sure that we protect the interest of clients. We've got to make sure that they get the right kind of service in a sustainable manner. Growth will happen for organizations when growth happens for clients in the end, right? So, and it has to be sustainable. I think in India, I find it, while it's a challenging situation, it's also a good challenge. It's a healthy challenge that regulators, SEBI and RBI leading from the front, are adding the right kind of challenge and making it sustainable, right? Growth is an opportunity. Sustainable growth is the dream, right? So we are aligned to that. Where AI is playing a role, I think from an HSBC perspective, again, similar to a larger part of the street, there's careful optimism. We were discussing separately as well. Data is a very important element for everything, including AI. We've got to make sure that whatever AI tools that we use or wherever we use in our applications, it has to be built on the foundation of the right kind of data. And the bigger risk with AI is hallucination, bias, right? So that's an element that's a constant challenge with AI. It's got the right kind of potential, but we've got to make sure that we use it the right way. I think about a decade back, we also had a similar challenge with distributed ledger, right? Distributed ledger or Bitcoin, which was the first product from that, was a rage at that point of time. We adopted a similar, HSBC, we adopted a similar approach even then of careful optimism. I think that's a similar way we'd want to pursue AI as well. Having said that, there are a lot of implementations being done to make sure that we gradually but surely reap the benefits of it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Udayan. Over to you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think the three gentlemen have said enough, so I'll try to put it from a Crisil perspective. I think primarily where we are using four areas. One is regulatory intelligence, because Crisil is kind of a global business. It has India, it has, a lot of international clients as well. So when it comes to regulation, there are a lot of regulations which get applied to us. In fact, there was just one paper out, and it's not a regulation yet from SEBI on AI itself. 20th June when it was come, I think it has come. So, it's very difficult to monitor these, and so we have a system in place. It's not something we have inbuilt, which uses AI internally in some way. I'm not very sure what way, but yes. So it gives us those kind of sort of summarizations, and then there is a workflow and a lot of automation around it, that whether we are complying, not complying. Then the other thing is summarizing those. So the recent SEBI CSRF circular, if I'm sure everybody's aware of, that was like I think 50-pager, which went on and on, duplicate things picked up from NIST, sorry. No, I hope nobody from SEBI here. So there we had made an effective use of summarization to identify actually the action points. And I'm not boasting, but then there were a lot of banks who said we can't comply yet because we've not understood the circular yet. But I think Crisil, within 2 months we have cracked it and even complied with it. So actually by 31st March we were complied, but then they extended it to 30th. So that's a good use case for us. So yeah, regulatory compliance is one. And then within the processes, I had actually the ratings part of it. So I'm kind of the CTO for ratings. I mean, not a global one, but so there we have a workflow built, and there are a lot of internal automations done which connect and get data from NSE, BSE. We do conflict checking and we get a lot of insights. I wouldn't say it's AI completely, but it's a lot of automation because it's always a mix of automation and AI, I believe. And there it's helping us with whatever compliance that SEBI asks us to do. That's the second area. And likewise, we have a lot of automation within the system to ensure that whatever opinions are out are like properly signed. The other thing that we are looking at is the predictive intelligence part. We have not cracked it yet, but yes, in some ways we are trying to experiment with it. It is at POC stage only on the compliance areas, like how do we, it's very difficult to predict something there, but yeah, I would say it's at a very early stage. And the fourth one is, ethical or model governance. So that is something that we are looking at very seriously as a process, as an automation. And Crisil as such has some products also around it, and we're trying to build products along with services as well. So that's, our sort of core. Actually, compliance is our core. So that's what, in a nutshell, that we are doing. So, yeah.
Good, thanks for your views. I move on to Darshana. She's from CtrlS. It'll be good to get some cross-industry perspectives from you.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah.
Sundar, thank you so much for moderating this for us. My name is Darshana, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So all the people sitting on my right are my customers. Okay, so a data center typically, like everybody knows, we typically host data for all of y'all. It can be in a physical environment or a virtual environment. Now, Sundar, the interesting part of our role is, irrespective of the guidelines you guys come up with, we better comply. Okay? Yeah. So the funny and the interesting part of a data center is, we don't have to follow our own compliances only for building a data center. We have a tiering and rating, like Deepti said, you all have for your environments. We have it for our environments to have the physical setup up for you. Uptime is the criteria for us that defines the availability of a data center. So all the guys sitting in the room who have their data placed somewhere, all you need is your data should be available at any point in time. And what we do is we take care of your data so that it is available in any point of time. Now what happens is, very rightly said is, while it's a BFSI conference, we deal with all the customers, Sundar. So we have to, we like it or we don't like it, we have to comply with the RBI, comply with the SEBI, comply with the HIPAA, comply with everybody. I have to comply with the GCC rule, a manufacturing rule, a pharma rule, a SEBI rule, and everything. Everything that Nirmala madam comes up, we have to live with it, right? And it takes us equal effort, rather more effort, to understand your compliances and get it done. Now there are two parts of the story here. One is the compliance that we follow for giving you the data, okay, in terms of physical and logical data availability. We have our compliances, security layers, protections, and all of it at our end. The other part of the story is mapping all of it to your end, which means any SaaS application you're using today, I have to comply with what Finacle says. I have to comply with what the SEBI says. I have to comply with what AWS says, because all of these are also hosted with me, right? So it is not the physical part, but complying with all your parts. Let's take an example. If we have a Vodafone hosted with me, it will have a different compliance for me to follow. But if I have an Axis Bank hosted with me, which is a large BFSI, I have to follow all their SOC 1, SOC 2 practices, because I have to manage their audit reports, I have to manage their monitorings and all of it. And if you ask me, DP, I like it, I don't like it. We like it because the moment you say DP, they host data all in India, and they host it somewhere, it better be me, right? So it is an advantage for us because it's more business for us. The disadvantage for us is we have to comply with everything that they say. So all their applications, all their platforms, all, for us, having this data center services is also have to be keeping a secure environment, a protective environment, and a performing environment. So we have to maintain all these things for multiple customers, and we keep learning with all of these guys and hope to do a better job.
Yeah, thanks, Darshana. I think we in individual industries struggle to comply. I can imagine your plight from where you are sitting. So, interesting perspective. In fact, my next question is specifically to Darshana, so please hold on to the mic. This is specifically from data center. See, my specific question is, AI workloads in BFSI are like growing exponentially, right?
Sure.
In DCs, but so are the risks. So the question here is, how are DCs or data centers evolving to, say, support AI-driven applications? For example, fraud analytics, predictive risk modeling, and of course, your not so light topic, while ensuring compliance to DPDP.
I cannot like everything that I do.
Yeah, but it's not yet act, but you better start working on it now. But yeah, over to you.
Sure. So there are two parts of my answer. One is that because everything is AI driven today, like we were chatting in the room right now, everything that you do is too much of data and too much of AI. Now what happens with the AI data, what happens with the outcome is a secondary story. I think that can be discussed over a beer, it's not to be discussed here. So what happens with the data is another story, but how do we get to that? So we have multiple data centers coming up, Sundar. These data centers are specifically built to handle the AI workloads that you guys have. When I say built to manage your data centers, we're talking about GPU workloads, huge NVIDIA chipsets and Intel chipsets today, which can give you a vertical and horizontal growth across. For managing, earlier, I don't know how many people are interested in infrastructure here. Earlier, we had cabinet sizes up to a 10, 12, or 20 kVA. Yeah. Today, our AI workload consumes 150 kVA for the same cabinet size. So the burden comes on us to have the building with that kind of power availability for having that huge, heavy compute, dense rack for you, okay? Now for that, we're building data centers which are having liquid power cooling, the liquid immersion cooling, which helps support those heated workloads. Secondly, we have more than 25 edge data centers coming up. Edge locations are typically managing low latency and very close to the customer office, so that you have, they fall in the vicinity and you can manage them better. So this is from having the data center availability for you. Now, second part of the story is keeping all the acts in place to manage this for you. So for example, if it's a SaaS player, if anybody is using a Zoho or a SFDC out here and SuccessFactors, how does that sync with my workload out here is one. Does my BMS also do the AI reading like you guys do? Yeah. The answer is yes. Do I have any predictive analysis out of the station cameras and unstation cameras? The answer should be yes. Is it a deletion and a deletion of a particular usage of a user the moment he stops using it? So the deletion recommendation policy there. Then for us, it is also about managing your audits at different points of time and providing that kind of data. So I need to prepare my data and reporting and monitoring the way you want it to be. So I think we're doing all of it.
Yeah, so this DC thing reminds me of a story which is now 24-year-old. I'll spend 30 seconds. I done a project with ONGC in Dehradun. And after 5 o'clock, we were forced to work from the data center because office lock करना था उन्हें. तो हम data center में बैठ के एक military jacket 16 degree में काम करते थे. So once what happened, the door got locked. It actually got locked. Me and my colleague inside 6 बजे गए. अभी हम लोग बोले या तो रात को इधर मर जाएंगे because it is too cold. We said now भगवान जाने क्या होगा. This is real, okay? I'm not making it up. Fortunately, in those days there was no AI. Every 3 hours एक security guard आता था check करने को. फिर वो खोला, check. वो देखा हाँ अच्छा हुआ गए. हमको बाहर जाना है. हम lock हो गए. So I'm just thinking if the same thing happened in today's times, I would probably not be in this stage today because everything is remote, right? There's no physical security guard coming to check saying क्या हो रहा है. But I'm assuming that AI will detect, oh, thermal temperature बढ़ गया है. There are 2 human beings inside.
No,
maybe
so
to look at it
keep
differently.
looking at the station and the non-station thing. There's a movement out here and let's look at it. So
Yeah.
you'll not be worried at all. And all the data centers come with bunker sites. Will take care of you till you stay in the data center for the night.
This joke I tell till date because the first thing we asked the first day is about how will we survive?
And that too at a
दो
16,
jacket पड़ा है, military
it's at a
open.
16, 18 degree temperature. So it's
Yeah, it
difficult.
was 16. I remember that very well.
That's 16, yeah.
And we can't change it, right? Because their servers will go down. So.
But the fact that you were locked and you did not get access, that means we're doing a good job.
Yeah, that. Anyway, that was on a lighter note. So my next question is, so let's start in the same order. Is basically on, see, cyber resilience now is not a IT problem, right? It's more like a board problem. And if you see any of the regulations issued by any regulator, it starts and ends with board. If you just do a control F on any regulation on board, there has to be at least 3 dozen hits because everywhere it's a board problem according to any regulation. So the question here is, what governance or models that your organizations have adopted to embed cyber resilience into your ERM framework?
Yeah, so as you already mentioned that the board is much involved now in cyber resilience and board is really worried about cyber issues, cyber securities. And board is interested in looking into the cyber risk. So once board is interested, definitely it is implemented across the organization. So basically everybody, like most organizations, have implemented security practices, ISO models and ISO 27000 frameworks. And apart from that, we also have, being CCP, we also comply with CPMI IOSCO guidelines.
Okay.
Those guidelines also have defined cyber resilience framework, and which is inspired from NIST framework.
Okay.
And similarly, even RBI cyber security framework is inspired from the same standard. So it has come and it has been adopted in the organization at all levels. So right from identification of threats, so cyber risk is part of it. And it is part of, it's so much integrated, like our BCP plans are integrated with cyber resilient practices, as well as cyber drills are happening with respect to BCP testing. We also have integrated cyber crisis management, where responsibilities and roles and responsibilities have been defined. That is part of enterprise risk management framework. So basically, once it is in regulatory framework, as well as you have adopted certain standards, and when board is definitely looking at it, you fall in place for all these framework, and that is one thing. And the importance given to cyber security is increasing, and even the board is interested in learning these things. Okay, so for that, right from trainings, like we normally keep training and keep doing phishing drills on employees, but what about board? So board is interested in doing that. So we had a exercise with board with deep fake. One personality, like a famous personality, was part of a meeting. It was just a demonstration as part of the security awareness to the board that deep fake is possible, and you can interact and you can discuss with the personality, the famous personality. And initially, it was a surprise, and at the same time, it was a good learning for everyone when it is practically demonstrated to the board. So apart from that, board is also interested in looking at the cybersecurity framework, the posture of the organization. The KRIs are now built and reported to the board. And KRI includes everything, right, from our technology stack, how many people are getting phished. All the risks are captured and KRIs are reported there. So I would say that not even even the SOC related areas, what kind of incidents we had, what kind of MTDD, MTDR we are following, all those kind of metrics, when board is interested in, then definitely it's a direction from the top, and it percolates within the organization, across the organization, and the security and cyber security is taken as a serious matter. So this is what I would like to submit.
Hey, thanks, Dinesh. I think for the sake of repetition, once again, CCL being a systematically important institution, I think cyber resilience is really at the top, right? Because you cannot be down even for a millisecond, because it is that critical. Thanks for your use once again. Over to you.
We'll probably try to keep it short in interest of time. I mean, I think if there's any KPI that I have been measuring in cyber data, the lines are sort of getting blurred, but our budgets on cybers have gone 10x in the last 2 to 3 years, especially post-pandemic. I think this is also a reflection of the relevance. It's also a reflection of how we are probably working from anywhere with a hybrid. Now the devices are not just limited to the premises of your office. You bring your own device. You're always on work in a way. So the risk has sort of enhanced. I think this is also a great use case where we are looking, you know, I'm sure banks who want to be both resilient, safe, and trustworthy to their clients and internal stakeholders continue to invest a lot on such digital technologies to prevent, because one event can bring things down. I don't know how many people remember, I think it was the CrowdStrike end of last year. So funny enough, for people who had not upgraded their software, were saved. So because there was a version on above which it probably hit the firewall. So it's a space which will keep to innovate, and I think I initially mentioned the bad actors are much ahead. How we kind of build a bigger fortress is a continuous investment.
Thanks for your views. I think important point. All regulations helping. हमारी सब budget बढ़ रही है, which is good for us. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, and you get to advise a lot more as well. So, I think, again, cyber being a priority for the board because it's a problem, no. Cyber is a priority for every board because it's a responsibility. I had mentioned that earlier. It's very important for all players in the BFSI sector to act with responsibility. I mentioned earlier, our regulators are making sure of laying out, platinum grade frameworks. My fellow panelists had mentioned about SEBI CSCRF. It's absolute platinum grade. Yes, it's picked up a lot from the NIST 2.0 framework, but then no other regulation anywhere else in the world is implementing that with the fervor that SEBI is doing that, which kind of, again, is leading with responsibility. It adds to the onus on banks like us to make sure that the right kind of adoption is also done. So while, again, in the same example, while SEBI has laid out the framework, SEBI has been in a consultation mode for the last 8 to 9 months as well, right? It's the right kind of, in my view, it's the healthy setup for the economy to grow, and the board reacts to that as well, working in a responsible manner. We've got to make sure, again, I'll repeat what I had mentioned earlier, growth for our clients, for ourselves, has to be in a sustainable manner. Nothing is more important than resilience. Right? Of course, growth is important, but not at the cost of resilience, and cyber is the most important element there. We are living in a world of cyber warfare, right? Countries fight cyber warfare on a daily basis, whether it's in the news or not. Every country has a risk of being isolated from the rest of the world, depending of, how many friends or foes every country have. And I don't think any country has friends all over. And that's true for India as well, right? So it's a very important element we all deal with. Personally, all of us, we get scammed, or at least try to be scammed all the time, right? With all these phone calls happening. It's a reality where everyone needs to be awake and aware with the right kind of attention. BFSI, of course, has to play its part in leading that.
Thanks. I do want to do one more question, so we'll be, if we can be quick, that'll be really helpful.
I think lot has been said, but yeah, I mean, it's a similar framework which has been applied at Crisil. I think there was a lot of change that happened after we started adopting. We are 100% cloud now. So, I mean, while doing the cloud, I wouldn't say cloud is enabled, but while doing it, we have automated a lot of security. Where we have kind of shifted left on the development processes. So yes, board is insisting. There's a cyber risk committee. It's part of the enterprise risk management. All that is there. But what is important is that every person in Crisil is made. It's part of the KRA for every person, and especially in IT. At least 10% of every developer or every manager of the development team. There is a KRA that you have to have 100% compliance. There's no tolerance on any exceptions. I think that has helped, and there's a lot of governance, both at the CISO level, at tech level, on this aspect. So that has really helped to maintain the security standards. And of course, budget-wise, people have mentioned, I think, similar story. It's I think the team has grown 3 times, I would say. Budgets as well has grown 3 times. And also, Crisil follows a 3-tier sort of a governance. First is where the tech team or whoever is the executor does the controls. Next is basically the CISO team, the CRO team, whoever has to look at it. And the third is where the auditor comes in, and there's an auditor. So this is consistently followed for all processes with respect to cyber. So that's really giving us that assurance. I'm sure a lot of business too. A lot of
Thank you.
KPMG and other partners. But yeah, so that's the approach, more or less, that's been followed.
Thank you. Your views, Darshana.
I covered it in the beginning. We are also trying to develop AI frameworks with companies like NASSCOM and DSCI and all that. So earlier we used to only be compliant 27001. Now we also do 27701, which is the Privacy Act also. So it puts us to more pressure. All I was just chatting with these gentlemen in the room is I see a lot of cloud repatriation also happening while Deepti says cloud is still there. Because of which, because of the privacy and the compliances and the guidelines they have to follow, they want to come back to a private cloud or a physical environment, by which they can have more control. BFSI is very sensitive in terms of data, and like Dinesh was explaining about the latency, when you talk about a 0 millisecond, you're talking about a 0 millisecond RPO, RTO. That means your data can never be down. Never is never. When I have to do a DR drill, it has to be an active, complete drill for them. The IT guys have sleepless nights when we do drills for them, but then hence they keep parallel environments. Nowadays, most of the BFSI guys are keeping a DC, a NDC, a DR, a NDR, 4 copies of the whole thing, which increases the footprint for us, but obviously we have to maintain high standards to meet all of them, and they expect that level of certification from our side, and we are ready for it.
Thanks, Darshana. So I have one last question, and for the sake of the panelists, I've changed it on the fly here because we have less time. So the question is, actually first is a statement of fact. Okay, BFSI ecosystem is interconnected. It's a no-brainer, correct? We don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. So two following questions from that. We know BFSI is interconnected. Question number one, do you think there is a need for ecosystem level testing, for example, banking or insurance or CCIL? And question number two, follow on, if we do that ecosystem level testing, do you think we'll be successful? Currently, it does not happen, by the way. It happens in pockets. Over to you, Darshana.
So okay, it's a multifold answer. It should be done, definitely. Okay. But the parlance of having the application conflict, you know, for example, a ERP behaves in a particular way, but a non-ERP behaves absolutely different. So the change management is a big headache for the IT guys. So how that's going to happen, it's a big mystery. And that's going to be more critical for manufacturing guys who run on heavy PLM systems and BFSI guys who have the CBSs. It's not easy to play with the CBS application this way, and I do not know how it will happen.
Okay. Over to you, madam.
I mean, I think as we see, there is a little bit already happening. People are collaborating, like Crisil does participate in some of the forums with SEBI on some of the governance on cyber especially, or whether it's, certain or, I mean, yes, but I'm not sure if that testing together is a good idea.
Okay.
Because one, that the bad person can catch hold of it, and we have to be careful of who is getting the report and what. So within Crisil also, earlier we used to, send out all the VAPT reports all across. Yeah. Now we're being very careful because the vulnerabilities, people, it's like a PIP information, I would say, for a company. So we should be very careful while doing that. So.
Thanks. Over to you, Udayan.
My views are exactly similar to what she said, right? So ecosystem level testing may again alert the bad actors, right? So you get antidotes for everything. You should not do that. And things like, for example, red teaming are supposed to be done in secrecy, right? If you're doing ethical hacking, you don't tell everyone you're hacking right now, be aware. Of course, that will fail. Yeah. Right? So it's very important for it to be done in a structured way, the right way, as much as possible with participants who are mature in the journey, and gradually also making sure people on the street who are not can be brought up to speed, learning from what is a benchmark that is set.
Thanks, Udayan.
I think I would sort of agree. The only thing I would add is, as data is becoming more and more available and digital, I think regulators are actually playing that anchor role. If you look at a lot of global regulation, they actually ask most of the financial services to bring data in a particular format. That is where they actually do most of their tests in terms of whether it is fraud analytics, whether it is sustainability of the bank or the financial services. I think that's only going to go up. If you look at how the securities market was settling T+2, it's almost coming to T. The liquidity already operates. So I think a lot of that velocity will drive that, how much you want to test that ecosystem from an availability standpoint, and we'll probably see this in the lifetime. Thank you.
Thanks, Amar. Your views, Dinesh.
My view is currently, as you mentioned, that it's not available, that collaborative approach of doing some kind of testing, cyber testing. So threat intelligence is definitely something which regulator is doing with respect to banking or BFSI sector, which we are receiving as part of it. So that is one area where it is happening. Some scenario also we assume and we take the scenarios in cyber drill wherein one of the member is failing. If one member is failing, it is a systematic, it can be systematic failure because the other members are also dependent on that. If one is not available and he has a lot of trade, like very high volume trades are already placed and he has some obligation with respect to that. So those kind of scenarios at our level we have tested, yes, but along with it will be really useful if we can collaborate with others and do these kind of exercises. It will be useful, not with the entire industry, but at least with big institutions. It can be helpful.
Thanks, Dinesh. While my screen is screaming, time is up. I'll spend quick 2 minutes just trying to summarize what we did today. My summary on the first question on AI, I think all of us are using it to read through reams of regulation on cyber type of area, which is really helping cross industry. That was my first takeaway. The second one that I heard really loud and clear is all this is helping for us to negotiate budgets with our bosses, which is good news for us. The more complex it gets, it's actually helping. The third one,
Sorry,
which
just to add on budgets,
Sure.
we, like if we want something, we add it to the CISO's budget. So it gets.
Yeah, so these are CTOs talking, okay? If they need something, they add it to the CISO's budget. Very well said. Yeah, it depends on, I think that's a good one. The last takeaway I had on the question, which I kind of crafted here on the stage was, there is need for industry-wide collaborative testing, but it has to be done carefully because there could be bad actors you can come in. And I want to end this with a small story on this red teaming thing, which again came impromptu on my head. We were doing red teaming exercise for one of the large IT companies, CRO sponsored. CISO does not know about it. And I know the CRO for decades. The CRO calls me suddenly saying, can you get your guys out of the room quickly? Otherwise, this CISO is going to call the cops because you guys have gone to domain controller. So it can take very nasty turns. He said, don't talk too much, just get your guys out of the building. Because the CISO is hunting around the campus to figure out, he's almost detected, kahan se scan ho raha hai. So on a different note, but you need to have very good buy-in when you do red teaming. Very important because you're trying to expose somebody's weakness. So that being said, once again, thanks for making from this esteemed panel and thanks for the audience here. I know it's a very rainy day. Bombay can be a tough city to commute on a rainy day. Thanks for coming once again.